Ooh, shalalala, shalabalagoo. Ooh, shalalala, shalabalagoo. Well, listen to this jingle. It'll tell you what to do. There's a video game podcast that's perfect for you. Ooh, shalalala, shalabalagoo. It's called Flop Talk. It's a podcast just like this, but it's hosted by Myles and Kathryn and Chris. Ooh, shalalala, shalabalagoo.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Flock Talk, episode number 30. This month, we're going to be talking to our NESfriend, and it should be a good time. So we're going to be talking to our NESfriend, but before that, we got some hot topics. But before that, I want to talk to our NESfriend. NESfriend, Travis, how you doing, buddy?
It's Travis from Polykill.
Yes, thanks for having me on, guys. I really do appreciate it. I've been jealous every time there's been someone else on the show other than me, so I'm happy to finally come and be on here.
It's funny that you say that.
You are our third choice for Polykiller, so I'm glad you made it.
Top 3!
Hey, I'll take it. I'll take it.
Yeah, Jake had to go back to Texas and...
Briz didn't know who we were. So we were like, all right, let's just ask Travis.
This adds up. Yeah.
So for people who aren't familiar with you, tell us about your endeavors on the internet.
I do two things that I'm proud of. One is I am the co-host of the Polykill podcast with Jake, and also the Off Kilter podcast with Jake and Briz. So two podcasting things. Then also I do a little YouTube side project where I do little capsule reviews of NES games, and it's called NESfriend.
You're our NESfriend.
That kind of
it all works out.
Yeah, sometimes things work out.
So which of the 3 things are you the most proud of?
To make the most people happy, I'll say Off Kilter. But no, truthfully, the most effort has probably been Polykill. But
Polykill is the mothership of what it is that you do on the internet. But Off Kilter, it's interesting that you mentioned that. Now, that is a special podcast for your Patreons or patrons?
I mean, it's a public podcast, but it's a podcast that patrons have the most influence over, for sure.
And you get together with Jake and Briz over lunch, and you discuss whatever the patrons want you to talk about.
That or whatever I dig up, random topics of the day, whatever weird story Briz wants to share. We're learning a lot about him lately, which has been fun. So it's sort of, there's no format or anything like that. It's just random discussions. It's not for everybody. It's certainly atypical, but it's a good time. We enjoy it.
We should probably mention that it's not like we're replacing Chris with you. We're happy to have you
I'm here from here on out, right?
I kind of just didn't want to mention anything.
Oh, you just all of a sudden it's Travis, and we'll be like, this is the new podcast. No.
Yeah, Travis doesn't even realize it, but we just...
We know how blessed we are to have Chris as much as we do, so we couldn't get him this month, and that's fine. We're so happy that Travis could join us, though, to talk about NES games, because you're like the NES guy. But first, we have hot topics.
Hot topics!
Yeah, it doesn't work quite as well without Chris, but it's fine. We're making do.
Hot topics. There, I did it.
Thanks, Travis.
So, number one hot topic, the thing I gotta talk about, get it off my chest, is this sweet, sweet trailer for the new Sonic the Hedgehog movie. Y'all see that trailer?
I did.
Oh, he's gotta go fast. Cyclops is gonna catch him. It's looking pretty good.
Okay, Travis, what did you think of the trailer? The internet hates it.
I don't know. I didn't like it. I'll say that. I feel like there's a lot of hate out there, but I don't know. It's not a movie that was made for me, clearly.
They cast your favorite actor of all time in it.
I mean, I do enjoy Jim Carrey. I don't know if he's my favorite actor, but yeah, I have fun with Jim Carrey. Jim Carrey looks like he's going to be a good part of the movie. I will say, though, that the comedic exchange between he and the military guy, where he's just constantly cutting him off, I was like, is that the funniest part? They didn't even get a grin out of me, so I'm perplexed as to where the Jim Carrey comedy is, but the thing, I could live with all that. I could live with a bad script and a kid's movie and a silly premise and all that, but just the uncanny appearance of Sonic is the thing that's getting me a little bit.
I know it can't all be Jim Carrey coming out of a rhinoceros's ass, but I don't know, it seemed cool to me at least. You know what it reminded me of? It reminded me of Who Framed Roger Rabbit. How there's this character out of nowhere, looks kind of weird, and then this Christopher Lloyd looking Jim Carrey trying to kill the cartoons on Earth. That's kind of what it felt like to me. I might have seen a different trailer. I don't know.
Well, here's what I'll say, that I don't really care that much about Sonic. I have no expectations for anything Sonic related because I never really played the game. I have no nostalgia or anything tied to it. I don't really care if it's not the Sonic that I want or it's not the Sonic that I was expecting. It's still like, what did you want? He's a hedgehog, but he's bipedal, and I don't know. Like, the voice is Ben Schwartz, who's one of my favorite people in the world. And so I was excited about that. But I did feel like it didn't seem so special to me that it was Ben Schwartz once I saw it. He's not doing a voice or anything. It's just Ben Schwartz. I don't know if that really matches Sonic.
You know what does match with Ben Schwartz and Sonic is those tall legs of Ben Schwartz.
He's got
those real tall legs, and so does Sonic.
But I feel like maybe my disconnect, and it's because I don't know Sonic games very well, is it very military? Like, I don't think of Sonic as a military weapon, like a super soldier. That's what he seems like they're setting him up to be.
I feel like the premise is a little contrived because they chose to put other humans in it. And I totally concede that this will probably be a decent to okay movie that's fun to watch, whether you're a kid especially, or even if it's just completely atrocious, it'll be fun to watch because it could just be hilarious on that standpoint. It's just the appearance of Sonic. It's something about that. It reminds me of this kid from high school who always used to finish his sentences with "ain't it?" And I just wanted to hit that kid off like all the time.
He was too fast for you, right?
He was so fast. Couldn't catch him to hit him.
Do you not like the way he's animated?
There's something about it. Yeah, I don't know.
You know what, Travis? You're weird. How could you not love this trailer?
Here's the problem, is that a lot of people are really angry about it.
I think that's the problem. Like, people shouldn't actually be angry about it.
They shouldn't care as much as they care, but this is the problem, is that they're still going to see the movie and then hate it even more and be even more vocal about it. So here's what I wish. I wish that every single person who was like, this is not my Sonic, and like really angry about it,
not my Sonic.
Just don't go see the movie and don't talk about it. Like, what's the point in saying, I hate the way this looks, and now I'm just going to spend every day between now and when it comes out, and when I pay money to see it and give it money so that it makes money enough to make another movie. Okay, I'm getting really off. But it's just like,
where are you going with this one?
Just don't watch the movie. But I know, like, these people are going to watch it anyway, and they're still going to complain. And
here's what I don't understand. Did you see the Super Mario movie we got? Did you see the Double Dragon movie we got? For some reason, Sonic, I guess the technology wasn't there, but just missing from that, all those 90s video game movies. Finally, they turned out a video game movie for Sonic that looks like it could rival maybe Mortal Kombat Annihilation or Final Fantasy Advent Children.
I mean, it certainly looks like it's in the same breath as the Super Mario and Double Dragon movies and the Street Fighter movie. Yeah, which are still, I mean, 20 years later, maybe at the time, I don't even remember what I thought at the time because I was a kid, so I probably enjoyed it, but they're still fun to watch now. Even though they're so removed from the video game, they're still a part of this tangential video game history that's just interesting. And so even if it gives us that, that's cool. It's something to talk about.
And final question about the Sonic movie. Do you both think that this is the first in a series of films that will collide into a Smash Brothers universe, like a video game multiverse?
I mean, is that the dream? Is that what we want?
Do you think Pac-Man movie's coming next?
It's not my dream.
Wii Fit Trainer.
The thing is, though, I think people think they want certain things, right? Like, I don't know, maybe it's someone's dream to have a movie about Smash Brothers, but then when it comes out, it's not going to hit all the right notes, and then the internet will blow up again. I think Eric, my DQ dog, made a good point on Twitter, and you won't hear those words come out of my voice very often, but he made some kind of point that it is, like, you have to remember that it is for kids, and that, you know, there was stuff that we watched, like you said, I don't know if people really like the Mario Brothers, but the gift that he used was Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I'm like, that movie's garbage, and it looks like garbage now. And like, everyone your age probably, when that movie came out, loved it. How many more Turtles movies have they made? And they've tried it again. Like, it doesn't really matter. Like, there's going to be people who love Sonic so much that they're going to bring their kids to see it, and then their kids are going to fall in love with this version of Sonic, right?
And then they're all going to have
fuzzy, weird, super high def Sonic.
Weird legs, Sonic with small shoes. Man, so something weird about that nose.
Human face. It's just
the
like
human face. It's something about it.
It's like a human Mickey Mouse face.
He tapers, right? His legs are like very, very shaven.
Yes.
It's strange.
His hair is falling off his legs. You see it in the trailer.
I'll say, though, I think those old school Turtles movies kind of hold up, all things considered. All the practical effects.
They certainly do not.
They do. Those movies are great.
Okay.
What are you talking about?
This is from someone who you probably love the Ninja Turtles, right?
I mean, I did.
Were you super into them? And so you're very forgiving of those movies. I also don't care about the Ninja Turtles, so I'll say it like it is. Those movies don't hold up, Travis.
Oh, Kathryn, tell it like it is. New segment on Flock Talk.
Now, if they were to make a 3D... Oh, wait, no, they have made Smurfs. Let's see. Barba Papa. They could bring that back.
All right, that's the end of the segment. Next thing I want to talk about is this... Hey, Danganronpa.
Danganronpa.
Instead of Barba Papa, it's
Danganronpa. Oh. Yeah, I guess that's my hot topic because I haven't really played very many games and I've been really curious about it. Have you ever played it, Travis? Danganronpa?
I have not played it. I barely know how to say it.
I'm sure I'm saying it wrong, but we have the collection, the 1 and 2 for PS4, and it's like a visual novel, I guess. Is that what it is? It's really weird. It actually reminds me a lot of Persona. I don't know if it's the same people, but...
I don't think it is.
I don't know enough about this game.
Have you played it?
I played a little bit. I think I played the first day. I don't know why it reminds me of Persona. Maybe because they're high school age kids. They go to this special elite school, and everyone that goes to this school is super elite in their own way, except for the character that you play, who's just an average kid who won the lottery. They're all ultimate something. So it's ultimate pop star or ultimate wrestler, and
he's the ultimate lottery winner. Also, worst lottery ever.
It does end up being the worst thing ever because you wake up and it actually ends up being kind of like a battle royale. No, now you can't say battle royale to mean the Japanese movie, but you know what I mean,
the Hunger Games.
Yeah, I guess
and
now
we still use that.
Do we have to call it Hunger Games now? So it's a Hunger Games thing where they're trapped in school, and the only way to get away is if you kill one of the other students. And so they're all well, we have to find out another way to get out, and they're being watched. And then it has the very Persona thing where it sends you to certain places at certain times to do things, but on your off time you go and you talk to people and you ask them what's up. My favorite when you were meeting the people, though, is that there was just one little rich kid, and his ultimate was that he was the ultimate affluent progeny, I think. Was that what it was?
Okay.
He was literally, and then they were literally he's the ultimate heir. He's just gonna have a lot of money for the rest of his life. And he acts like it too. I like it because I like those types of games, but then I stopped playing because it's one of those ones where I can't imagine myself playing it more than once. Once you know what happens, are you ever gonna go back and play? And one of the things that I don't want to do, because you find gifts and things like that, presents that you can give to other people. And so I don't want to accidentally give the wrong gift to someone and make them hate me, because I don't want to have to go back, and I want to try to maximize my friendships with as many people as possible. But also everyone's available for you to talk to, but you only have a little bit of time to go talk to them. You kind of have to pick and choose who you talk to. And then do I just focus all my energy on 1 or 2 of them? And so anyway, I'm paralyzed with those kind of decisions, so I just stopped playing.
It's like in Red Dead when you couldn't keep playing because you had to return your horse.
I couldn't find who owned the horse, and I rode around for hours, and then I was I can't carry on if I'm riding a stolen horse, and then that was it.
Travis, do you have these same problems when you play video games?
In terms of moral dilemmas and returning horses, not usually, no. No, I'll keep a stolen horse for a little bit. I'll take good care of it, though. I'm not going to hurt it or anything. I would give it a good home.
Yeah, I don't mistreat it, but I just think he would be happier back at home.
Nah, he's a horse.
Getting to your other point about the gifts, I know when you were playing Stardew Valley, you had a whole printout of which gift goes to which person.
It wasn't a printout, it was a handwritten...
It was a scroll that
I had a little notebook.
I'm sorry.
No. It's a notebook, and it was you accelerate your friendships if you give someone a gift on their birthday. And their birthdays only come once a year, but Stardew years are weird. It's 4 seasons. So I was very careful. I didn't want a day to go past without me taking advantage of the person's birthday and giving them a gift that they really like.
So in Persona, I had a very similar situation where certain gifts in Persona 5 would go to certain people.
And so I looked them up for you.
Is I just picked the person I liked and gave them every gift I had, because they're going to like one of them.
Yeah, but they also might really, like in Stardew, they actually just like, why did you even give this to me? I hate it.
The way I always see that in adventure games is like in Maniac Mansion, there's a special food you have to feed a tentacle. So I just always just loaded up the inventory and fed it everything until I accidentally gave it the right food.
Then did you remember what the right food is, and now every time you play it?
Now I just empty the fridge, give it all to the tentacle.
Huh. Well, when you were playing Persona, I would look up the gifts and who to give it to and tell you. And then I'd get really mad if you were like about to give someone a present. I'm like, no, this other person will like it more. And you really did not care.
Did you get to that part in Persona 5?
I'm sure I did. I think I was giving gifts to folks.
And you probably didn't care, right?
I didn't.
Did you make Kai Kai with any of the characters?
No RuPaul vernacular.
Did you make...
I don't know what that means.
Did you make in sex?
Oh, yes.
You getting down?
No, I don't think I did. I don't remember anything about this game.
It was a weird year.
89 hours. I remember nothing.
The other thing about Danganronpa that like kind of turned me off playing it is that the first person who dies was someone that I really, really like. Like I was just like, no, it can't possibly already be this. And then it was just done. And now I'm like, I don't even care now. I hope someone kills me and ends this.
Is there a way to save that person, do you think?
I don't think so. It felt kind of accelerated. So I don't think that must be a main story plot. And I honestly don't know what kind of game this is, if there is a way to like save people
like
or not.
Dawn.
Right. Yeah. I really don't know. Yeah. Like maybe it is just a linear story that I have to play through. I don't know enough about it. I haven't played enough to find out.
We'll all be waiting to hear an update next month.
Time next year.
All right, Travis, this is putting you on the spot a little bit, but is there anything that you've been working on you want to talk about?
Yeah, I think the Jim Henson's turtles really stood out, really stood the test of time more than those CGI turtles. I really got to say, I think they aged like a 2D graphics, you know, just better than the 3D. What was the question?
Did I really upset you with my turtle talk?
No, I'm not upset about it.
Well, I'm not sorry, so...
Oh, I know that. Have I been playing anything? Was that the question?
Yeah, because I've been following your NESfriend channel, and you've been playing a little bit of Rolling Thunder recently. That's one of your new videos. And Kathryn and I played a lot of that Rolling Thunder, too. It was in that Tenjin cart, and it reminded me a lot of Impossible Mission.
I don't remember this.
You just kind of, it's like a shooter, and there's guys that come out of doors.
Yeah.
A lot of doors.
There's crates and doors.
Now, you said Rolling Thunder 2 as in like the sequel that was an arcade port, or you mean as well?
As well.
Gotcha.
But there's a sequel?
Yeah, it was in the video. There's another game that's kind of like it too on the NES, Codename Viper. It's a lot of doors and shooting guys. I'm not familiar with Impossible Mission though, so that's one I should check out.
Doors. There's no shooting though.
It's a lot. You search a lot of furniture and you avoid a lot of robots. And if you're me, you fall down a lot of holes. Yeah. And then he has the best scream. You should look it up, but it basically is this. Every time you fall down a hole. Like, so part of it, like, we wanted to have you on here as a guest because you're our friend. You're, in fact, our NESfriend.
That's right.
And then we were like, well, what should we talk about? And you're like our NES guru.
I wouldn't go that far.
So your channel is pretty new, though. Like, how long have you been doing it?
I started on it back in December, and I released the first 4 videos the same day, like at the very end of December, just as a check this out.
Christmas present.
Yeah, see, try to get some feedback on it, and to see if it was something I wanted to carry forward. And everything was positive, so it's been every week since then, every Wednesday.
You're really good about keeping a regular schedule. We can learn a few things from you.
Did you choose Wednesday because it had NES in it?
I mean, it's kind of the natural choice, right? It's there's a lot of NES memes and a lot of Twitter action happens on Wednesday for the NES, so it seemed like a natural fit. But the secret to being on schedule is to make like a ton of these things and just be well enough ahead that you can schedule them all out. So I haven't played Rolling Thunder in months, but the video just came out, so it's fun.
Do you find it hard to answer some of the comments because you're like, I barely remember this game?
No, not really, because I do play them substantially to record the footage. I endear myself close enough to them to where, I try to beat the game, play it for at least a couple hours. If I'm having trouble beating it, I'll figure out some, just to get the footage, some game genie or some cheat to advance me forward just so I can see the ins and outs So I try to learn everything I can about the game before I make a review of it, because the last thing you want is people being mean to you on YouTube about some fact you overlooked. So
They're not like that, are they?
They're very thorough, though, your videos. So you can really tell the amount of effort that you put into these, because it's scripted, yes.
yeah,
And they're well-written scripts.
thank you.
No, you do a really great job. And then you have the gameplay footage to back it up, which I really appreciate, because sometimes I don't like when people talk about stuff and then the stuff on the screen doesn't really match what they're talking about. And then, I don't like there to be so much disconnect between the audio and the video.
Yeah, and that's actually a little harder to do than you think. It seems simple, like you would just put what you're talking about on the screen, but unless the footage lines up perfectly to give you what you want and like the cadence that you speak, it can sometimes be tricky to do that. But I will say that the inspiration for my channel is 100% due to another channel called SNES Drunk, SNES Drunk, a very popular channel. Actually, as part of the Polykill podcast, interviewed SNES Drunk, or Alex, as a collect call when I used to do those, which was I would invite collectors on and interview them. And this was when his channel was much smaller at the time. And since then, he's grown to have like 100K subs and all that. And so, but it's always, SNES, sometimes Game Boy Advance, a lot of the 16-bit games, and sometimes stuff on Steam. He occasionally dips into NES, but I've always just wanted something like what he does for NES. And sometimes if you just want it done, you got to do it yourself, I guess. So I actually made the first few videos, and I'm a patron of his. So I sent him what I had made and said, I'm not trying to like stomp on your toes or anything. I'm just looking for your feedback and maybe even your blessing, just to make sure that, I'm not encroaching too much on your style or what you do. And all his feedback, was like 2 weeks later, but it was positive, and it kind of gave me the confidence to go forward with it. So,
well, that's super awesome.
Yeah, I give him a lot of credit for just, I guess, convincing me that it was a good idea. He comments and interacts with a lot of my stuff now, which is great. And really just that format, that the quick to the point, don't show your face, just get the game out there, talk about it, don't be too cute about it, all that is 100% his format. So not that he invented that kind of style, but certainly I ripped it off. So.
Oh, that's cool. And the NES, that's your like favorite system?
Yeah, that was my first growing up.
Okay. And it's the one that you collect for. Is it the only collection that you like take super seriously?
It is the one I take the most seriously, but I do have substantial Genesis, Super Nintendo, and N64 collections as well. I like the cartridges from the 80s, 90s. Those are kind of fun to collect for.
Is your NES collection your biggest collection?
Certainly, yeah. It's at 600 now, I think. So
Oh, wow.
I would say I'm close to the end, but once you get to that point, there's a lot of time and money between that and the end. So it may never actually officially be done, but we'll see how close I get.
What's the one game that you're missing from the collection that you'd love to have? And not just because it's really expensive, but because you really want it.
It's funny you ask this, because it's actually a game that you assigned me for later. I don't want to get ahead. I don't know if you're ready to transition to that, but Rockin' Cats was a game that I remember as a kid, and I for a long time, for years, I couldn't figure out which game it was that I had rented over and over as a kid and not been very good at, but there was just something about it that allured me. It's like, I liked cats, I guess, as a kid. He was punching, you could swing with them and stuff, but for a long time, I couldn't figure out what that game was. And then when I figured out what it was kind of cost prohibitive. I've actually never seen it in the wild. And so it was fun when you guys said, have you ever played this more than an hour? Well, truthfully, I guess I had, but it had been 25, almost 30 years ago, and I really wanted to play it again. So I guess we'll get to that part later. But yeah, Rockin' Cats is one that I'd like to have, just because I have this weird nostalgia kind of, just memory of renting it 1 or 2 times, maybe 3 times, and just never getting far, but having this mesmerization with being a cat and running down the street punching people. So
on that note, we'll go over to the main topic to talk about some of the NES games from our NESfriend.
I've been around the world and I've met a lovely king. He was nice and kind and promised he would give me everything, but only if I promised that I'd sing a little song, saying that this king was the best man. But no, I said, you're wrong. Miles McInnes is better than you. Miles McInnes is better than you. And he's got a lovely shiny pointy crown thing on his head too.
Since we have Sonic superfan Travis here, we decided to talk about NES games because he's got that NESfriend channel and he loves the retro games. He knows NES games better than anyone else we know. So we gave him a list of games that we had some experience with, but he may not have. He gave us a very similar list, and we played each of the games for 1 hour each.
I think for me, especially because I don't play Nintendo games that much, that I only ever really play the ones that I know or that are really popular. I'd never even heard of any of the ones, really. I think maybe someone played it on Twitch or something recently and I'd seen it, but I didn't even recognize the name. So I really wanted Travis to kind of recommend stuff to us. You know us well, and you know the Nintendo system very well, so thought it just made sense for you to be like, hey, why don't you try these games?
Yeah, hopefully you enjoyed the choices.
So the first one that I want to talk about is an actual co-op game for the NES, Jackal.
This is the one that I think I saw someone playing. Maybe Musty Hobbit was playing it, I think.
Yes, I think Musty was playing it on his Wednesday stream, the Wednesday stream. When he plays NES games. See, it's all coming together.
Because I hadn't heard of the game. I didn't realize it was the game that Musty was playing, but once we fired it up, I was like, this seems oddly familiar. And the thing that really connected the two for me was the sound that the bullets make when it hits, like the little pinging noise.
Yeah.
It's the same as Contra, right?
It could be, actually. I don't know.
They're both Konami, aren't they?
Yes, Konami, indeed.
So a lot of the time, especially with like games like Capcom games, somebody on fire, it looks the same in all their games. I'm assuming with Konami, they have very similar sound bites, especially in those days, right? In 8-bit games.
But it's funny because like you're driving, are you driving like a Jeep, right? Like an army vehicle. And it just, the sound doesn't really match. I guess it doesn't match in Contra either. But it's like the cutest little, it sounds like ping, 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 ping. And then you hit it like 3 times and then it explodes. But it was fun. I liked it a lot. I find this will probably be true of all the games that we played that you recommended to us, is that they seem to have really strange controls. Like a lot of the time, you're just trying to figure out what the buttons do, which there aren't that many buttons, so it doesn't take long. But also in Jackal, like it just always shoots vertical. It doesn't matter. Like it shoots up, right?
Yeah, up the screen. So you're coming from the bottom and going up, yeah.
But
like,
the grenades can go wherever your car's facing.
Yeah, you could
Right.
you lob your grenades forward based on which way you're facing, but your gun just always shoots north.
Right.
And I found that like really, really hard to just wrap my head around because I just like, I don't know, I just always think that I would be shooting out the front of my car, which makes no sense because I'm driving and of course there would be someone pointing, I don't know. It just seemed weird to me.
Yeah, I think that is the biggest attraction from Jackal, is that it's maybe a little funky to control at first, but in terms of like simultaneous 2-player experiences, that's one that I really like because it's kind of short. Might take you a few times to get through it, but it's kind of short, and it's one of the few games that I can play repeatedly. I tend to not go back and replay games, but Jackal's one that I really enjoy. So
I could definitely see that. It's a very easy pick up and play sort of game, and it's not too difficult like a lot of other shooters at that time,
Right.
where like you pick it up and you're dead in 2 seconds. You know, it's kind of like a false start, right? Once you start playing a game like that, you're like, maybe I'll play something else instead. But
Yeah.
Jackal, you could really sink your teeth into. I also remember that cover art, you know, when I was a kid of Jackal, of those Jeeps. I don't know.
You remember them, do you?
Yeah. It holds us. You know how you remember some covers for some Nintendo games so well.
right, like Rockin' Cats. There was something about it that lured me in, and it stuck with me, and I wanted to know what that game was for 20 years. And yeah, there's sometimes just something about the art, not the game itself, that sticks in your memory.
So the reason why I recommended Rockin' Cats to you was because I ran into a copy randomly when I was collecting, and it was complete in box.
Wow.
I know. I feel
Awesome.
really bad that we didn't know you then.
When I got rid of it, yeah.
You already pawned it off? Nice.
Oh, yeah, I pawned it off immediately. I traded some comic books for it on Buns, and then
It's an even worse story because he probably got it for peanuts.
I got it
didn't
for
you?
basically nothing.
Oh, man.
Miles.
But I remember trying it because I looked at the box and it said Atlas on it, right?
Right, yeah.
And it's the first Atlas game, so I was like, I gotta try it.
Oh, is it the first? I didn't even know that.
I think it is. Yeah, I
Huh.
might be wrong about that, but I think it might be the first Atlas game. It controls really well, like surprisingly well. Like I like the intricate movements of the the hand.
Right.
I didn't play too much of the game, but I felt like it might be something that you wanted to try. That's why I recommended it.
But yeah, I agree. I think Rockin' Cats controls pretty well. You can like take the arm, which, maybe if people have not played it, basically you're a kitty cat and you have this arm attached to you that can extend from you, sort of like a clown's arm or something like that.
Almost like Bionic Commando.
Yeah, kind of. And you can mostly punch enemies with it, but you can also like grab light poles and stuff and swing yourself around. And the swinging it's not like 100% precise. Like it takes some getting used to because you have to like time the centripetal force of your swing, and it's on an 8-bit system, so it's not perfect. But the game also has like 5 different levels you can choose from, which I thought was neat. I really like games that, kind of like Mega Man, where you don't have to just always start at level 1, because that burns me out quick in a game that's tough. Like if I can pick level 4 and play that for a little bit and see how far I get, or like DuckTales. So it's kind of like that. It's really, really neat. I did find that some of the game toward the end was pretty tough.
Toward the end? Did you beat it?
I did, yeah.
Oh my goodness.
I played it for a little longer than an hour. I really enjoyed it. I sat down with it, fully intending to maybe work it into a NESfriend too while I was at it. So I did put some time into it and walked away pretty impressed with it. I mean, like you said, it's Atlas. So that when I saw that come on the screen, I was really intrigued then, because I was like, what were they up to, back in whatever, 1990. So good game, kind of, fun story, sort of, I guess. It just feels like almost like a Disney game. It feels like a Capcom Disney game in a lot of ways.
The whole getting pretty challenging by the end, that's pretty common for those kinds of NES games, from what I can tell, right? That,
from what I've heard about the ends of them.
Yeah, I struggle with Mario 3, and I probably couldn't beat it on my own. I think I've only ever beaten it with Myles, and he probably does most of the heavy lifting for it. But
don't sell yourself short. You're always selling yourself short.
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple reasons for that, really. A lot of them, number one, are arcade ports, so before they could figure out that they didn't have to, like, punish people for money anymore, people could actually sit at home and enjoy these, so they scaled the difficulty back on some of them then. But I think it was, like, the first system that really... the idea of a sit down at home and play through an adventure game was really beginning there. And so whatever algorithms and psychology they had to put into ramping up difficulties and that kind of thing was very infant. So some games get it right, some games don't. Some just start out tough, stay tough all the way through, and are virtually unplayable to like a casual or a first time player. And some get it right. This is one that I think gets it right. The first couple levels aren't too bad, and then by the end, it certainly makes you earn it. And that's the kind of thing I like, when it's a nice ramp up.
You like to earn it?
The NES is going to make you earn it most times, unless you're playing like Color a Dinosaur or something. But yeah, in the end, even the Kirby game for the NES, at the very end, the last boss gives people a lot of trouble. So yeah, they usually make you earn it.
I also think that you're quite good at games, especially NES games. So hearing that you started to struggle at the end makes me feel like, well, I'm never going to finish that game. But still, I feel like it's good to know that they are beatable games. Because I would have hate to have given you a game or assigned you a game that you enjoyed and then wanted to finish, and then it became one of those ones where it's just you hit a wall and it becomes impossible, right? Because then what started off to be like a pretty decent experience for you just turns into like rage quit.
Which is maybe the next game that we recommended.
Yeah, I can get to that one, yeah. Without staying on Rocket Cats too long, I will say that, while I finished it, I didn't actually like earn that beat, because I did use like save states and stuff because I was recording it for a future NESfriend. So, but I could, obviously even with save states, I could tell it was tough. But maybe one day if I ever get the legit card, I'll sit down and try to make it through legitimately.
Save states count.
Yeah, I count them.
Don't listen to anyone else.
Don't worry about it.
Save states
and Game
count.
Genie's fine too.
I mean, as the hashtag just beat it purveyor, I feel like I have to have some guidelines. I don't want Jake calling me out on the air over some save states, so I'll try to keep it legit.
Well, Rocket Sauce is going to call you out.
Well, that's fine, but I'm not counting it, so it's all good.
All right.
I'll count it for you.
Okay, thank you.
I'm going to tweet it for you.
Oh wow! First you accused me of liking Sonic, and now you're going to accuse me of cheating my beats. So this will be really good for me. Then glad I came on.
We're glad to have you too, because you recommended some pretty amazing games, including Fire and Ice, which is a game that I never really knew existed. I've heard of Fire and Ice, and I know it's an expensive cart, but I thought, it's probably just a action platformer like every other action platformer.
It's an expensive game. Is it a rare game?
Yeah, it was... I actually don't know why it's rare. I think it was made by Tecmo and released in like the early 90s, so it really shouldn't be that rare. But it goes for about $120, $125 loose.
American, yes?
Yes.
Oh boy.
Oh, cha-ching!
That's a paycheck over here.
Here comes the money!
I walked in while Myles was trying it out for the first time.
Fire and Ice.
It was while he was trying out Fire and Ice.
That's the first thing he screams now when you walk into any room he's in.
It's Fire and Ice.
I promise.
I think you were just on like the overworld screen, and I was like, oh, it just looks like, to me, a little bit like the Mario 3 world almost. And then when you started playing, the little guy kind of looks like the little chubby little Lynx.
Yeah.
Link. That's how much I know video games. Kind of looks like the chubby little Link guy. No, when does he look like that? Like Wind Waker or something, where he's kind of like, no. It's the one. It's like, I don't know. It's like Zelda. It's like a Zelda.
Oh yeah,
Adventures of Link or something.
Like a Four Swords kind of thing, maybe.
Yeah,
maybe.
He's the little chubby guy on the. Oh,
we're not doing a very good job describing what Fire and Ice is all about.
You guys did play the game, right?
We did. It's a puzzle game where you're trying to put out fire with ice.
Right. It's simplistic, but kind of fun, right?
Yeah, it's pretty deep. And right off the bat, I saw edit mode and I was like, here we go, baby. Because I used to love that stuff in a Nintendo game. When Excitebike let you create your own course, that was always something that like was top tier for me, baby. That's triple A.
Last month, we just talked about how neither of us got into Mario Maker, though.
It's true, because now I don't care. But back when the NES was out, when you're a kid and you can create your own game, like that whole feeling was amazing. And you know, it's probably the way a lot of kids feel like with Mario Maker now.
Hell, that's the way I feel with Mario Maker. But yeah, I see what you mean.
Yeah, so Fire and Ice is like, it's like a puzzle game where you basically, like, there's fire and you're a little guy and you can shoot ice, but you can only shoot it diagonally down from you, which is really weird. Going back to that, trying to figure out the control thing, right? What other games do you play where your only mechanic is shooting ice diagonally away from you down? Like, you can't shoot an ice cube beside you. You can only shoot it in the block down and beside you, like to your left or right. It's a bit weird to wrap your head around that, especially when you start having like levels and stuff and you realize you
have to leave platforms for me to return.
Yeah, because I guess when you're playing it, you kind of think, oh, I'll just make steps. But you can't just make steps because you can only shoot below you. So you can only make steps if you're already a little bit up, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's a very weird thing to wrap your head around.
It turns in a little bit like the game Kathryn, which we were just on the same podcast about in a way,
Yeah.
right? Like some of that block math you have to think ahead of.
Yeah, it's really true. Like, you kind of, so like, I think there was a level where Myles just stared at it and then he was just like, okay, I get it now. Like, I got it now. Like, so the thing is, like, there's little fireballs. So you can shoot ice, but you can't shoot ice onto the fireball. You can only kick ice into it or like push ice on top of it to put it out. You have a wand that shoots ice.
Pretty
and
cool.
You can be standing one step above and beside this fireball, but you can't put it out with your ice shooting wand.
Did you see the fireball's face? It's so cute. He feels real bad. That's why he can't. He can't look at it and put it out at the same time.
Yeah.
He has to just whip an ice block and turn his head.
Can't stare the victim down. He's not like that.
So like the fireballs, sometimes they move, sometimes they're stationary, and then there's like platforms, and so you kind of have to map out how you're going to get a block in a position to be able to push it onto him or kick it into the fireball's body or whatever, like into the fireball. Yeah, it's just a puzzle game, really, because the mechanic is just climbing up on blocks or shooting diagonally down ice blocks. And you can remove ice that way too, right? But you can only shoot and remove down and diagonal. It's so weird. But it's a great game.
It's really good.
It's so much fun.
I haven't played anything like that specifically on the NES.
Have you guys played or heard of Solomon's Key on the NES?
No, it sounds biblical.
It could be actually, but it's somewhat similar. It's actually, this game is technically a prequel to that one, but it doesn't involve the fire and ice. That one's more, it's a lot of diagonal block making, but you're kind of trying to find a key to get to a door instead of putting out fire. It's notably hard. I think Fire and Ice might be a little more accessible than that one, but I mean, if you're interested, that's another one you could try if you really like this.
I could see that adding a whole layer of challenge to it, because in Fire and Ice, the level ends as soon as you put out the last piece of fire, right? Whereas if you're getting a key and you have to get to a door, you have to also then plan your route out.
Right. And I think there's some enemies there too. I think you have to like dodge.
Oh, really?
It's been a while since I've played it. I could be wrong, but I think you have to dodge some enemies or figure out ways to vanquish the enemies.
I find it challenging enough just to like figure out how to put out the fire.
Yeah, that one's noticeably more challenging.
Yeah, I couldn't also make sure that I didn't block myself from the exit and then also don't die from enemies. Like, that's just too much to think about.
And you have to keep track of how many platforms you have supporting other platforms too, right? Because you're like, oh no, if I move this piece, all the platforms are going to fall and I'm going to be screwed.
Yep.
There's a lot of depth. And I always thought that Fire and Ice was actually a video game adaptation of the Ralph Bakshi movie Fire and Ice.
You never thought that.
I swear I always thought that.
That's weird.
I thought it was.
Well,
I thought they made a video game.
Well, I don't even know what that movie is.
It's like Ralph Bakshi did like the Lord of the Rings cartoon movie.
Oh.
And he did Fire and Ice and Wizards.
So not as good as 1990s Jim Henson's Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles? Or would you say it's close? Maybe second to that, maybe?
I think I prefer Ninja Turtles, to be honest.
Yeah, that's what I would think.
Those Bakshi movies must have been terrible. Jeez.
They're pretty bad.
What I did want to say about Fire and Ice, though, is that like we were on Kathryn together, the podcast for CC Prime, and I liked the puzzles. Like, for some reason, like I could figure it out. Like, I wasn't super stumped by the puzzles. It was one of those things where, like, if you try enough things over and over again, you eventually figure it out. I really struggle with Fire and Ice. Like, to be fair, I didn't come in right at the beginning of the game. I sort of jumped in at around World 3 and was just learning it, like figuring out what the mechanics were. But it is one of those ones, like, even if I'm staring at it, I don't see it. And I don't know how long it would take me to play. I
really think you need to start from the very first level in games like this, because it's like a building block, right? Like, you have like a lesson that you learn in the first like 3 levels, and then it builds and builds and builds.
Like, it's like Kathryn, where it teaches you kind of techniques, I think, right?
Yeah.
But you still need to be able to then translate those techniques and put them together and use them to solve the puzzle. And I'm not yet at the part where I can see myself, like, you know, the hamster wheels going, and it's just going to run forever because I can't figure it out yet. This is a game, though, that I will play more of.
Yeah.
Good. I'm happy to hear that.
Like, honestly, of the games, all 3 games I thought were good. So I'll say that. But Fire and Ice, out of all of them, is the one that, like, I would play all the way through for sure.
Cool. I'm happy. I've actually forgot what the third one was, so
we'll get to it. We'll let you know.
So before we get to our last game, let's go with the last game that we recommended to you.
Yeah.
Which was is actually one of our most viewed videos on our channel, is us playing this game. It's called Mystery Quest.
Why is it your most viewed video, do you think?
Who knows why anyone watches our videos?
I think it's just tags.
Good SEO.
Yeah, I think that's what it is. I don't think there's a lot of other videos about Mystery Quest.
Yeah, I think when we put that video out, you even searched for it and you couldn't find any YouTube video. It's a pretty old video. We put it out like years ago, like 3 years, maybe 3 or 4 years. I don't know. But I remember you saying like, there just aren't a lot of videos on this game, and so we made one and put it out. It's not a video you would watch to learn how to play the game or anything, right?
And let's be fair, it also has a home run of a thumbnail, so
I don't know what the thumbnail looks like.
Okay, so Mystery Quest is Super Mario Brother clone.
Clone, yeah.
It is, though, right? Like, they use all of the same assets.
There's a lot of the same sound effects and things like that. I don't know if that qualifies it as necessarily a clone, but it's certainly related. I can tell that asset-wise. And I don't know, what was did you guys enjoy this game? Am I going to...
there were things I liked about it that I was surprised were in it, like secrets.
Right.
I'm surprised they even bothered putting secrets in a game like this. And then there's one thing that I really hated, which was the running.
Yeah, that's kind of the thing. So it's a little weird to control. So basically, you're this little elf guy. You have a wand.
Hal. His name's Hal.
Yeah, H-A-E, yeah. I only know that because if you die enough, it just says Hal died or whatever. And I was like, oh, his name's Hal.
How?
H-A-O.
H-A-O.
Oh, how? Okay.
Yeah. So you're this little guy. He's got a wand. He can vanquish foes with, I guess, shooting maybe the wind off him swinging his wand. I'm not real sure what he's shooting. There's like these in-between worlds where you're kind of outside, just left to right platforming, real simple, nothing to write home about. But then you get into the castle and it opens up this labyrinth of doors and puzzles, which is where the game you'll spend most of the time, and that's where it's the most interesting, really. I had to refer to the manual to figure out some of the things you could do, because it does doesn't really tell you like how you can jump higher or run faster. And to run faster, you have to just continuously attack while you're running, and that's just strange. And then to jump high, you just have to continuously jump as you're jumping to jump higher. It's really aggravating.
Is it button mashing jumping, or is it timed mashing?
You time it as you hit, but sometimes you don't have that. Like if you're trying to jump higher, that's easy to do. But if you're trying to jump further, you have to sort of line it up to where while you're running, so you're mashing your attack button to run, you have to time your jumps so that you land at the end so that you can get that big jump toward the edge at the very last jump.
Oh my goodness.
There were some places where I couldn't find out how to advance without learning that technique, and so I had to do that. I only made it to the second castle, but I think the puzzles, like the figuring out how to get places, is intriguing. It felt like a puzzle platforming game, not perfect, but it was interesting enough to hold my attention. But what I found out, just, I didn't finish the game, but I found out doing a little bit of research on it that the only way to beat the game is you have to play those 4 castles 4 times.
No!
You finish the game and it's like, congratulations, but that's not good enough, and you do it again and it says it again until you beat it the 4th time and you get the actual end screen. So that's like probably, considering that each time you play it, you'll probably get better and quicker at it, that's still like 3 to 4 hours of playing that game to actually finish it. So I don't know if it's worth that slog to get that actual end screen, but
Do you think that's the mystery part of the quest? You don't know how many times you have to beat it? Yeah,
probably. I don't know. The first person to figure that out, bless their heart, but
And there's no variation? Like it doesn't introduce
I don't know.
new...
I only got to the second castle the first playthrough, but I can't imagine it varies it up too much. I think it'll probably just force you to do the whole thing over again.
I had a realization while you were talking about having to learn to do a jump, and now the game just came flooding back to me.
Yeah.
Because I remember now where Myles was he's like, this is impossible. Like, this must not be the thing that I'm supposed to be doing.
Right.
Because it's just this stupid jump, and it looks like I don't even know if I can make this jump. And then, so finally I just started looking at walkthroughs, and I'm like, no, there's just a guy jumping. Like, he's just doing it. We watched it, and that's when we discovered you could get extra speed or something like that,
yeah,
right?
by tapping. When Kathryn showed me the clip of the guy just making the jump, I thought maybe Hal had bought some shoes on eBay and bought the Nike Airs, so he got the lift. But, it turns out you just tap the attack button randomly, rapidly.
That was just a wall, right? Like,
yeah.
You didn't know that was a mechanic, and then
because it's in no other game. Because why would it be?
Yeah.
But then it was just this impossible jump going, well, what do you expect me to do? Like, you haven't taught me anything, and now there's just nothing I can do at this point, except for there is something you have to do, and how would you ever discover it on your own?
How would you?
It's a mystery.
It sounds like I had the exact same thought process you guys did when I got to this one, and I bet it's the exact same part.
I bet it's the exact same jump.
I did the exact same thing. I was like, okay, did I just miss getting like big jumpy boots somewhere? Maybe there were some big jumpy boots that I didn't find that I should have went and found. And then I looked up a guy just playing through it, and he just gets over that jump like it's no big deal on his first try. And I was like, wait a minute.
How frustrating is that?
You gotta watch our video of it, because we do a nice montage of me being so upset about this jump.
I need to watch it.
I don't remember it.
That's why it's got all the views.
I'm going to watch it post haste.
Maybe that's why it has all the views, because nobody knows how to make it past that jump.
Could be, yeah.
And then they watch it for solace. Like, they're like, oh, we're not the only people who have this problem, right? Because, like, it's so frustrating to watch someone who just does it. I'm like, well, he just did it. So there's no, like, seeing how he did it. It's just he did it.
Right.
Right? So it's just like, okay, well, I have to figure out exactly what he did, like what speed he was going when he jumped. That was the other thing. It was like a very specifically timed jump. Like, you had to plan it right at the right moment just to clear certain things, I think.
Yeah, and you had to jump twice before that too. So yeah, it's nuts.
Oh yeah, they put stuff
it's
in
like
your
a
way.
you're like a long jumper.
Yeah.
You know how you have to do the 2 strides before you do the...
Yep.
Yeah, well, I hope you watch our videos so you can see what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sorry that we made you play that.
No, it's fine. Actually, I'd always thought, just based on the name and cover of the game, that it was going to be an RPG. I 100% thought I was going to be top-down fighting things with numbers, and I was actually pleasantly surprised to find that it was a puzzle platformer. I don't think it's that bad. I just think, like, that part kind of sucked. There's worse games on the NES. I'd give that one like a C+ maybe, but
I just think it's really cheap, though, that in order to get credits, it just forces you to just play it over and over again. It's just cheap. There's no reason for that.
Yeah, that's some Ghost and Goblins level cheapness.
It's worse.
Yeah, it is where you gotta do it 4 times.
It's so much worse.
It's doubly worse.
So going on to the last game, this is the game that you recommended, and it had one of the most interesting names of a video game on the NES. It's called Kabuki Quantum Fighter.
Oh, yes. Nice.
Where you play a character named, get this, Scott O'Connor. It's just a curveball right from the bat. Like you put in that Nintendo card, curveball in your face.
He sounds like a second baseman from the 90s.
What is the story? It's like sci-fi, right?
Yeah, because Scott O'Connor's great-great-great-great-grandfather saw a kabuki show once, and now all of a sudden, that's where his spirit animal comes from.
Well,
he enters the Matrix.
It's kind of like the Matrix, right?
Yeah.
Like he gets like jacked into some system to save the world, maybe, or maybe just Japan. I don't know. I don't remember the story that well.
Yeah.
But then when he wakes up in this world, he's got like kabuki hair and kabuki face.
And he whips that hair back and forth.
And that's his weapon. His weapon is the hair whip.
And it works. I mean, I like that weapon. I think it's like playing Castlevania with long hair, essentially.
Yeah, it's the most efficient weapon, I think, out of all of them. Like, you do get a gun, but it's like quite limited use or whatever. Like,
The worst part about the hair is the punch when you're crouching. Because the hair makes you think you have distance, and then something will be a little low, so you'll crouch to punch, and that punch is like, you have the smallest arms I've ever seen in a video game. Because that punch, it has to be so precise, while your hair can be a little bit more...
He doesn't have short arms. He just has really long hair.
Yeah, but that throws me off. Like,
like we played it for quite a while, and I couldn't get very far, but that's just me and platforming. But I enjoyed. I didn't mind the game, like, and I found that like I was getting better. It's just that my learning curve is super slow. Whereas like Myles, you should just play because at least you'll get through the first boss at least, which I never did. But that's just because I'm really bad at games. But I found that as much as I played it, I always made the mistake of thinking that I would whip my hair while crouched, right? And have that kind of distance. Like it's counterintuitive or something, right? And we just took a lot of damage because you're like, oh crap, I'm punching instead of whipping my hair.
I think part of the reason why it messed me up so much is because I played Shantae before this game. And Shantae has amazing range with her hair.
Yeah.
And amazing attack when crouched too. She has the kick, right? This character, you had to be a lot more precise. You had to be a lot more exact. You had to commit to your attacks.
Absolutely.
You can't just spam the button and kill it because it needs to be timed correctly. And the game did remind me a lot of Shantae for a couple reasons. Obviously the hair, but also the way you platform and like you swing on things and jump onto things. It felt very Shantae to me as well, which is saying a lot for this game that came out of the NES era, that came out way before Shantae. It was clearly an inspiration for that game.
Yeah, I actually think this game, I already mentioned that it sort of reminds me of Castlevania, but it also gives me some strong Batman vibes, the NES Batman. You know, some of the platforming, I think the difficulty is right up there with it. It is a tougher game, but I think it's certainly overlooked, not so much recently. It's caught on amongst the hidden gem faction of NES folk. I would consider it more of a hidden gem back in the day. Now it's wider known, but I think what's held it back then, and certainly now from people even knowing about it, is the name. I mean, when you hear Kabuki Quantum Fighter, you don't think... I mean, I don't know. What do you think?
What are you supposed to think?
Right.
What are you supposed to think when you hear that title? It doesn't really invoke anything, really.
It sounds really good, though. It's very, like, Kabuki Quantum Fighter. Like, it has a lot of good sounds in it.
I guess, yeah. It sounds like you're, like, chewing something when you say it.
Now, I'm curious about, at the very least, Fire and Ice and this one, Kabuki Quantum Fighter, if you discovered those later, like as an adult.
Certainly, yeah. Kabuki Quantum Fighter I discovered through the virtue of just collecting games and having that one on the shelf and being like, okay, what is this? Let's just check it out. And sitting down with it for several hours and playing through it and actually really liking it. Fire and Ice, I similarly found, I didn't own it, but I playing around with some ROMs on the internet, some ROMs.
Oh, FBI, we got ya.
I learned about it that way, and I knew it was a game that my dad would really like. And so when he was still around, I I, introduced it to him. And the reason that I own it actually is for some sentimental reason. So my dad passed away. It was the last game he and I played together. And right before my daughter was born, I found it for a deal, bought it with the hopes that maybe one day her and I could share that experience too, even though she'll probably grow up with different types of video games and think the NES is complete garbage. It's a pipe dream, so we'll see. But that one has more of a sentimental kind of hook for me. But I mean, I still recognize it as a great game, regardless of that.
Oh, that's such a nice story.
I guess, yeah.
Yeah, I feel bad that we didn't finish it.
Maybe one day. It's tough.
But it's definitely beatable. I like that you can play any puzzle you want.
Yeah, you can just skip around and do whatever.
Yeah.
I want to put Travis a little bit on the spot.
Okay.
You curated these games I don't know if you did it specifically for us, or you at very least wanted to introduce them to us. And I recommend actually all three that you recommended to us, to anyone who's listening, who's curious about it. We played it on a RetroPie. We had a good time playing all three of them. Is there another game that's not on this list? Were there runner-ups or honorable mentions, or something that maybe you didn't think necessarily Myles and I would like, but you would still recommend to like maybe a more avid platformer or puzzle gamer? Or
I think for platformers, I would stick with Kabuki Quantum Fighter. I think that's one everyone should play for sure. I was thinking, I picked Fire and Ice thinking of you. I knew that you were more of the puzzle game fan of the two. And so I'd asked Myles if either of you had in the past played Kickle Cubicle or any of the Lolo games. And I recommend those highly for anyone who likes puzzle games. They're block kicky puzzle games, so they're similar, all three adventures of Lolo and Kickle Cubicle. Lolo 2 and 3 are really tough. So if you're just mildly interested, I would go with Lolo 1 or Kickle Cubicle for puzzle games. I think those are awesome.
Did Round 2 Gaming, Dean from Round 2 Gaming, I think he played through all the Lolos.
Yeah.
And I think he said that Lolo 3 was really tough.
So did Travis, I think.
Yeah, I've never actually finished Lolo 3, but it is tough. It's a tough game.
Is there a shooter maybe that you would recommend?
Shooter. I mean, aside from the mainstays like Contra and stuff, there's an interesting game it's sort of multi-platform. It's one that I'm sort of getting into. I don't really actually know if it's good, but it's certainly interesting. It's The Lone Ranger for the NES. So what's kind of neat about that game is there's sort of three different parts to it. So you're the Lone Ranger, you sort of travel city to city. There's aspects of it that are, top-down shooty or platform shooty kind of thing. And then there's a whole aspect of it where you can actually use the light gun. So you're going down 3D hallways and guys will pop on screen and you use the light gun to shoot them, and you're maneuvering with the controller, and it works really naturally and really well. It's like maybe the closest thing the NES can get to VR. I mean, it's pretty far from VR, but it works really, really well. It's an adventure game, so you really got to like save your progress and move on to the next town kind of thing. It's not as easy as just kind of hopping in and playing it. You got to be ready to sit down with it. But that's one that I think is certainly interesting enough to be worth people's time.
And do you have to play it with a light gun?
I don't think you have to. I think you can use a cursor if you don't have a light gun, but the light gun works really well.
With a regular TV or a CRT?
If you're using the RetroPie, you won't be able to do it. But
oh, okay.
Yeah, I think the cursor would still work fine. But if you do have the means of using the light gun, I'd say go for it. That's fun.
I just really like light gun games, so I was like, how accessible is it? But I probably wouldn't have a way to play it.
The Punisher's also a light gun game, I think, isn't it?
It's a good question. I don't know.
Dick Tracy, I think, as well. Anyway, Travis, thank you so much for showing us these games. We had a really good time playing them.
I hope so. I'm glad to hear that you really especially liked Fire and Ice. I was hoping that would be the one that would hook both of you.
Immediately, I was like, oh, he's just giving us a bunch of platformers, like action platformers. And I was blown away when I played Fire and Ice. I was not expecting that at all.
Good to hear.
So I think we're ready for a little bit of odds and ends.
Odds and ends.
Hey, that's not bad.
That was pretty good. Chris,
Yeah.
watch out.
Who's Chris?
So, odds and ends, every month we talk about what the new CC Game of the Month is.
I think we forgot one month. We were like, we're going to do this thing now. And then we did it once and then we forgot the next month.
So,
but we're getting back on it.
May 1st is Shenmue. Shenmue for the Game of the Month. And you can play that on the remaster. Well, it got ported over to Xbox.
Yeah, it still looks poopy.
It doesn't look great. And PlayStation. And it originally came out on the Dreamcast. So you can play it on any of those.
You know what looks better than that? 1990 Jim Henson's Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
I was going to say some stupid turtles. Have you played Shenmue?
I've dabbled. I've not actually sat down and tried it. So I've been up in the air about whether or not I'll run through it this month. Maybe. We'll see. I've been watching Musty Hobbit play it on his stream. It doesn't look that bad, but it's a strange little game.
It is strange, yeah. Another game I thought was an action platformer. Turns out.
You thought it was going to be like Yakuza.
Yeah, I thought it was, and it is I get how it's like Yakuza, but it's way more adventure game than Yakuza.
You were like mostly upset that you barely had gotten into any fights.
Yeah.
And you're just like, I'm not beating any.
Why is there there's two different combat systems? There's like the quick time event combat system and then an actual combat system. And it doesn't matter. You don't get to use any of them. You're just looking for sailors and tattoos all day. And you should be going to school. Why isn't this kid? I've got a lot of feelings about Shenmue, which is great because I'm going to be on the podcast at the end of the month.
Is that a spoiler? Are you allowed to tell
I'll
people?
be talking about Shenmue, baby.
Oh, wow.
With Musty Hobbit and
Are you
Rocket
allowed
Sauce.
to tell people?
Well, I'm saying it. The portable game is actually really interesting as well. It's Lilo and Stitch, which is a shooter for, I believe, the Game Boy Advance.
It's a shooter?
Yeah, that's why a lot of people don't know that about Lilo and Stitch, is that it's actually a really fun shooting game, like Contra.
Like Contra? Lilo shoots things. I've never even seen the movie. He's an alien.
He kills a bunch of people.
He's an alien?
No regard for human life.
Does he do an Elvis impersonation?
Yeah, he does that.
Have you seen the movie?
No.
I've never seen the movie.
The only reason I saw the movie was because it was in that sweet year, I think it was like 2001, 2002, where I was making copies of bootleg movies on VHS tapes and selling
And you were like, gotta get on this Lilo and Stitch
and
money
Lilo
trade.
and Stitch made me quite a few dollars, let me tell you.
Stupid little kids paying for VHS cassettes.
That and the Powerpuff Girls movie.
Oh, well, that makes sense to me. Powerpuff Girls are amazing. The video games are not, but the cartoon is great.
If you like shooters, check out Lilo and Stitch, which will be the CC portable game.
The other thing that's coming up in June, C3, which Travis helped organize.
That's right. C3, come join us. Philadelphia, too many games. You can go to cartridgeclub.org/C3 if you've not registered yet and would like to. If you have issues, you can hit the email info@cartridgeclub.org. I think we'll get you there. If you have any issues getting a room or anything like that, or reach out to me specifically at Trav Plays Games on Twitter and I'll figure it out for you. Hope to see everyone there.
Well, Myles and I we have finally confirmed. It took us a while because we were not 100% sure if we could go, and if we could go, how long we could go for. But now I feel like we're pretty safe to say that we'll be there for the full weekend at least. So we're looking forward to that. I don't think Chris will be there this time. I'm sorry, P1. He was pretty excited. I watched the bros stream and he wasn't reading the chat fast enough. So I was answering a question that he had asked before and I answered yes. And then he asked if Chris was going to be there. And then he saw my yes. And then he started freaking out because he was so excited. And I was just like, no, read the chat. Man. He's not going to be there. So he was really excited for about 20 seconds or however long that delay is.
I think there's going to be some people, though, that are going to be happy that Chris isn't coming. One in particular, because we went to that arcade the last time we all hung out, and we were playing a co-op game, but Chris kept killing Caleb J. Ross.
Oh.
To the point where Caleb, we were so close to beating it, and he was just like, I'm good. And he laughed.
Oh, no. Oh, well.
And I was like, you got to get used to Chris. He takes some getting used to. He's always going to try to kill you if he's on your team.
Classic move.
Yeah, I don't think he can come this time, but we'll be there and we will see everyone. Is that it? Thank you so much, Travis, for coming on. And you also came on with very short notice and you took on assignments at very short notice.
You actually went above and beyond. You beat one of the games.
Yeah, we didn't get anywhere near that. We were timing it. It was like 1 hour, turn it off.
You should just cheat like I did. Makes them a lot easier. Also, I want to say that, it's just a trailer. I felt like I was too hard on the Sonic movie. It can still be fine. The trailer was a little weird. Sonic looks a little weird, but it could all be okay. Let's just all be patient, see what happens.
I'm not apologizing for anything I said about the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, though. If that's what you were trying to get at, it's not happening.
You can live your life on the wrong side of Jim Henson's masterpiece. That's fine with me.
You keep saying that. Do you know how many amazing movies Jim Henson
I can
did?
think of 2.
Ninja Turtles. Oh my God. Travis, thank you so much for coming in, talking about Nintendo games with Kathryn and myself. We had such an amazing time.
Thank you for being our NESfriend.
Thank you guys for having me. It meant a lot. I really appreciate it.
And on that note, for Travis and Kathryn, I'm Myles. Take care, everybody, and keep it real!
Not like that Sonic.
Flock talk, shalabalagoo! Ooh, shalalala, shalabalagoo. Stop.